the moment our fellow geeks, dweebs, nerds, and other unfortunates have been fervently waiting for has finally arrived. It's time for TMI, Confessionals of the Nerd Kind. And now, your hosts, Jeff Nerfherder Chandler, Jim Kaiju Baker, and Christina Yojimbo Henry. You can continue. And now, let's get on with the show. Here is TMI.
Are we recording? Yes. Do you see the recording light?
I do see the recording button. So if that means I see it, that means that people are listening. So welcome, everybody.
Welcome.
We are a week behind. And if you are a fan of Christina, you'll realize that she is once again not here. Unfortunately, she is not going to be here for chapter 14 or 15 of The Mandalorian. And I'm sure she's more upset with that than anybody.
Now, she is feeling under the weather. So if everybody could send their good thoughts and vibes her way, the Chicago way.
So aptly, chapter 14 is titled The Tragedy.
Now, these titles for the Mandalorian
a
chapters,
little questionable.
They're questionable and they're a bit spoilerific in themselves. We had the Jedi, so there was no mystery as to who was showing up in that one. As soon as that title comes out, you're like, what? The tragedy? What is going to happen? Little Grogu, what is going to happen?
No, I thought the Bee Gees were going to show up. I couldn't get that song out of my head all week long. Singing that damn song.
This is like if episode 5 was titled not Empire Strikes Back, but Luke's true father or something like that.
I am your father. Oh man.
Okay, when's this tragedy gonna happen? What kind of a tragedy can I expect?
What's tragic about this? So I can't even remember what they led us into. So he was taking Grogu to the temple that Ahsoka had told him to go to, so that Grogu could sit on the seeing stone or whatever that thing was and choose his destiny. Contact a Jedi out there somewhere and choose his path.
And I love how Mando refers to Ahsoka as the nice lady when he's talking.
Well, what else are you going to call her? I do want to point out right up front that this is directed by Robert Rodriguez.
And it was funny because I didn't know that going into it. You know, you see who directs it as the credits roll at the end.
Yep.
And I thought that there was a very Desperado-esque moment in here.
Are we talking about the explosion behind?
No, I'm talking about jumping backwards off the rock and firing as you're falling.
That's a good call. No.
It's exactly what Antonio Banderas did in Desperado.
But he's also notorious for these large explosions as his heroes are, forefront of the camera or walking away or whatever. And we do get that one shot. And we'll bring in the character who basically turns and looks directly at camera as the explosion happens behind him.
Which is crazy because we'll get to it, but you've got to do that. If you're an actor, there's a lot of pressure on you to get that right.
The timing.
Because they're not doing that again.
I don't really think it was a real explosion. I'm pretty sure that
because the reason I say that is just coincidentally, I just watched Roadhouse this past week.
Roadhouse.
And there's a scene with Kelly Lynch that for the same thing, but this is 1989. So
you're talking about real pyrotechnics.
Deal.
Oh yeah. No, you got to get that right. Excuse my friend. What's funny is though, I read Robert Rodriguez was not the first choice for this episode.
Who was?
I don't know. The original director fell out. And I guess Rodriguez just happened to be on Jon Favreau's cooking show, and he brought it up, and he's like, "I'll do it." So
now, forgive me, I can't remember. Did Rodriguez direct a season 1 episode or no?
I don't know. No. This is his first go at this stuff. But I love this guy. Because you talk about those Desperados and those old school El Mariachi, his original, which was remade into Desperado, but then he like parlays that into From Dusk Till Dawn, and then goes into like the Spy Kids movie. And then of course, we got Shark Boy and Lava Girl, which was pretty much written by his 8-year-old son at the time.
He went from like being a hardcore violent director into a second career as a kid movie director.
Yeah, and he does a lot of those special effects himself. He's got like his own studio, like in his garage.
Yes.
And if you ever seen any of those Spy Kid movies, at the end, he always does like these little snippets behind the scenes, how I did this kind of a thing, making of little videos. Kind of cool. Yes. Welcome to the welcome to the Star Wars universe there, sir.
Yes.
Job well done.
This is one of the best episodes of television.
Oh, dude, I literally have greatest 30 minutes of television history ever.
Forget just saying The Mandalorian. Television,
correct. Period. Give me another half-hour show that gives you so many goosebumps, so many feels, so much action, so much coolness.
Largely in part to the return of a beloved character of the Star Wars universe. And of course, I mean
Jar Jar Binks.
Jar Jar Binks, everybody. Jar Jar Binks.
They're gonna blow them up. Imagine if he puts the armor on. You're talking about Boba Fett.
I am talking about Boba Fett. Yes.
We got teased early in the season. When is he gonna come back? Are we gonna have to go to Tatooine to see him again? No, he basically chased him down.
Although, as an old school fan, maybe you agree, maybe you don't, Jeff. It is a bit disconcerting to know the face now behind the mask, even though you knew it in episode 2. Boba Fett as a kid was always a mystery, and that's really what made him so cool.
And you know what's funny is I was having this conversation with my friend Pete, and he pointed out that this episode validates that 40 years of obsession with this character, because he was cool and he was enigmatic and we didn't know what he looked like or who he was, but he never did anything. He just stood around. He just stood around. And yet we had a cult following around this character.
It's true, and it was all based on his look.
His looks
was never justified.
No, until this episode.
Yeah.
And I don't mind at all. I love seeing him outside of his armor.
Yeah, now that I'm used to it,
yeah,
I'm good with it. Now that this episode just blew my expectations away, I am so good with it.
Yeah. It also blew other things away, but we'll get to that.
All right, so this is short and sweet, this episode. Mando has to go to Tython to find the Jedi Temple. That is
Which he does. There it is, sitting right on top of a rock. There it is.
There's whenever you're going to a planet, like we were talking about this weeks ago, these planets must be so small because as soon as you start to land, oh, there it is.
There it is.
Yeah. Is this luck or does he have coordinates? I'm assuming he has coordinates to find this thing.
I would like to think that Ahsoka would have given him some kind of point.
It's like, telling him to go to Earth and you have to go to Mount Everest. And he,
correct.
As soon as he breaks the atmosphere, there it is.
There it is. Yep. There it is. Oh, there it is. There's a big arrow in space. So he lands, he puts Grogu on this rock and waits. And nothing happens.
And then he is not even sure if this is the rock. That looks like a Jedi temple if I've ever seen one.
He may have seen the Star Wars holiday special.
He may have. Yes, he may have.
It looked very similar to where Rey went. So but then all of a sudden we hear this very familiar sound and in comes Slave One. And my family who was watching this episode said, that is the ugliest ship I have ever seen. And I immediately disowned them all and kicked them out of the house. You don't disrespect the Fett ship.
But at the same time, just look at Empire. Slave One successfully disguised itself in a bunch of floating garbage.
Yeah. So why? So he's chasing after Mando to get his original armor back.
How could he not have picked it up off?
Why would he not? Why? Why was he? All right, now I'm going to go chase after him. Why couldn't he just taken it from Vance Cobb when he was on the same freaking planet? He knew where the guy lived.
He even named him. He said the armor you got from Vance Cobb.
Right. Yeah.
So it seems like he was tracking this from the beginning. Like maybe once he regained his consciousness. And how did he get separated from the armor? It's obviously the armor that allowed him to survive the Sarlacc pit.
Right. Yeah. Because it is very well worn. It is, who knows what the Jawas did to it in between, if they salvaged it or whatever. But it is dragged through the mud. It is scuffed up. It is worn. And I love the look of it. The bigger question is, where the hell did he have his ship parked for 5+ years? Was it like just full of parking tickets? sitting there. Watto's used car lot.
Or no, maybe it was in Jabba's. So Jabba's palace.
Oh,
maybe it was parked there.
Oh, you're right, because that's that. Yeah.
See, now Jabba's dead, so there's nobody to collect those parking.
You would think that somebody would have moved into that nice little throne room.
Correct. But he probably cracked some skulls to get his ship back to begin with if somebody else had moved in.
Regardless, we get a return not only of Boba Fett, but also of, what's her name? Fennec? Fennec.
Now, I'm a little bit confused because this sounds very similar to the swear that Mando keeps saying, Dank Ferrick. So you could tell that Fennec did not have an easy childhood with that name. Hey, Dank Fennec.
Shut up, man. No wonder why she could be badass. She had to kick people. Yeah. So
and Mando swears in front of Baby Yoda. That is inappropriate. That is inappropriate.
He doesn't know. Oh, but we didn't. So let's talk about this because the episode prior, he did learn Grogu's name, and there's this wonderful moment as they're coming up to the planet to the temple. Like you could just hear the joy in his voice every time he said Grogu, and then the child would look at him and respond to him, and he was giddy. It was such a exactly what Ahsoka had said. The bond and the relationship between these characters has become awesome. But then there's a part where he says, you know what? He says there's too much growth or whatever. We're gonna have to take the last part of the journey with the windows down. And then you just see him, he's flying with Baby Yoda there in his arms. And it was like the greatest little scene ever. He's like, wee! I was like, oh, that's fun. Boba Fett comes down. He wants his armor back. But before, did they fight?
No. There was a shootout. They do fire on
That's true,
Mando.
Right. Yeah.
Now,
and then that's where we see Fennec, right? And then she's threatened to shoot Grogu.
Now, what's happened is in season 1, we saw the mysterious feet show up after Fennec's been shot. You assume that Fennec's dead, but then you realize she can't be because this has to mean something later on. And surely it does because those feet were Boba Fett's.
Yes, they were.
He saves her and gives her some cyborg parts where she was shot.
How does he have this ability?
I don't know.
He gives her like a cyborg stomach. I could see an arm. I could see an appendage. A cyborg stomach. What's she eating?
Whether this is all going to be explained, I don't know. Maybe it would be better not explained.
I'd rather not. I guess he had all those surgical equipments just sitting around. Maybe the Tusken Raiders have that ability. Who knows?
Perhaps.
I don't know.
But she's in his debt now.
Yep.
She's been saved by Boba Fett.
So they come to a truce just in time for the Empire to basically drop in. Because we forgot there was a tracking beacon hidden away in the Razor Crest.
Yes, one of the times that the Razor Crest was being repaired. One of the many times it needed to be repaired.
Yeah, well, you better call out the surgeon on this one.
Eventually, it's just going to make sense for you to buy a new ship with all these repair costs that you're getting. Yeah. So he's going to have to now. Yep.
So Gideon immediately knows where they are, and they launch and they drop those damn Dark Troopers, and they came down.
I wonder if they contracted Hammer Industries to build those.
Yeah, they were very Iron. They were very Iron Man-esque. But we get this glorious fight scene, and this is where you're talking about, flipping off the backside of the hill, shooting. Boba Fett is just full on badass action, and he just earns his keep right here. He's just smashing stormtrooper skulls and helmets with his damn stick.
And you're thinking to yourself, this is what this guy could do all along, and we've never seen it.
Like I said, this validates our cult-like status that we've surrounded this guy with.
This is like the badassery retrofit that Darth Vader got for Rogue One.
Oh yeah. Oh well, we got it now.
Yes, we do.
We got it now. And a nice little moment, Boba Fett looks up and he sees the ship. Doors wide open. What's inside? His armor.
His armor. But now, before we get there is a tense conversation that he and Mando have. Because, again, he wants the armor like everybody seems to. Yeah. But he wants not Mando's armor. He wants his own armor. So, of course, Mando's like, are you Mandalorian? Mando's world has been opened up in season 2. So now he knows that not every Mandalorian, maybe he did already, but I think this was new news to him, that not every Mandalorian has to hide their face. That he is part of a smaller group.
Cult.
So it could be, so he's asking Boba Fett, and Boba Fett doesn't give him the information right away. He just says, that's mine. It belonged to my father, so it belongs to me.
Yep.
it's a little bit later that Boba Fett shows him the proof, the genealogical.
Oh, yes, that's right. He does.
That Jango was a foundling, and like Mando. So he's not really a Mandalorian, but he is by extension.
Yeah, and that little snippet that shows up on his arm is full of Easter eggs. Because you can actually decipher it, whatever the official Star Wars language is. Some people have gone to the extent of deciphering and reading the crypta, and there's a bunch of words and names of other characters and some planets that correlate more with Clone Wars and in Rebels that kind of tie stuff back into Mandalorian.
Regardless of the facet of Mandalorian that Mando is. But he explains that, the Beskar was stolen during the Purge, the Civil War. So this could have been taken egregiously. And, Mandalorians could have been killed by Boba Fett or his father or whatsoever. So you can see why he's hesitant to give this up to him. But then he accepts that Jango Fett was a foundling, and then it does belong to Boba Fett.
Yeah, but he takes it anyways. It isn't like he gives it to him.
Right, but he's in his debt. He says, I'm in your debt because of the armor, but it's not like he gave it to him. He took it from
he just took it, right. Well, you didn't shoot me after the fact to take it back, I guess. You want a receipt with that? The reveal of him in the full armor, or what remains of the armor, and just seeing the helmet. And again, someone out there is already cosplaying this. And I know on social media, people are making fun of the fact that he's slightly chunky. And I'm like, come on.
I think that played to the character.
I agree.
He's not going to be out there pumping weights or.
No, if anything, probably that crate dragon steak, maybe it's a high saturated fats. That's what he had to survive on.
If this guy can kick ass this effectively, he can look however he wants.
Damn straight. And so it's a mix of the helmet and the shoulder pads and the chest guard, which are, like I said, are completely scratched up. It's just, it's weathered beyond almost recognition. But he's still got the Tusken Raider kind of belt pack around his waist. He's got the robes on the lower. So he's very samurai-ish looking, and he's still got the collar, which I love. Vance Cobb wore the same thing, but his was red around the neck, and I think it just adds so much to this character. It just takes it to the next level. Loved it, absolutely loved it. And then he just goes off. And continues his little killing spree of stormtroopers.
And to bring in an episode that we recently did, he's got more missiles, I think, than Mechagodzilla does.
knee missiles.
He had a knee missile.
Knee missiles.
Just like in that movie, he put his foot on the rock and came out of his knee.
Yeah. And then, unfortunately, the tragedy is that Grogu is captured.
Oh, that is the tragedy.
But not before you actually see him activate the stone. And you get all these little symbols around the outside, and you got this blue light thing going off, and he's doing whoever he's contacting, communicating with, and then it all dies, and he's exhausted. He flops over, and then these damn dark troopers just grab him and go. He uses his rocket launcher, and it flies, and it hits the one ship, which explodes, and then drops onto the other ship and explodes both of them. And that's the shot where the Rodriguez kind of a signature, where then he kind of turns and looks at the camera as those things are going down in flames.
Now, this is another one and done weapon, because once you shoot that rocket, you don't automatically regenerate another one. So where do you go to buy
I'm sure
that?
Next week he'll have one. Yeah. He'll just have another one.
Well, Mando used his, and he still doesn't have one. So they've carried that through. The continuity is there.
Yeah. Unlike Mechagodzilla.
Yes.
Who magically replenishes these things. But the second tragedy is that we lose a value member of this team. The Razor Crest.
The Razor Crest. A character in itself.
Yeah. This is like the Millennium Falcon getting blown up. I heard 1 million people all cry out at once because their Lego toy set just went bye-bye.
No, to the contrary, that I was interested in perhaps obtaining that for Christmas.
Now you think it went up in value?
And it certainly has. First of all, it sold out immediately, and then on second markets it doubled in price. So I think the list price was $129, and it's now going for over $300 on the market.
I'll tell you, this show has just catapulted any Star Wars properties. My comic books are going through the roof, and And
Good for
we'll
you.
talk about
Good for you.
Ahsoka. You know, we're not really getting we're deep into Christmas right now, and we've kind of laxed on the news. But if anybody knows, Disney just dropped a bombshell that they have 10 Star Wars TV shows and movies in development,
and 2 of which are direct spin-offs from The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
So we've got what we assume is going to have Cara Dune,
Rangers of the New Republic or something like that,
and then the Ahsoka show.
Ahsoka, yeah. And then, well, the big thing for me was the Patty Jenkins directed Rogue Squadron, which I think is very interesting.
They're going ahead with Cassian Andor as well. That show.
Yep, that's moving forward. And then we got like A Droid's Life. So one was called The Acolyte, and I don't know what that refers to or who that even may be. The Bad Batch, which were characters that were in the Clone Wars, are getting their own series as well.
Obi-Wan show. Big news there. Big news. Somebody's coming back.
Hayden. How's that going to work?
I don't know. Is it now? So now are we thinking, is the show going to be previous adventures?
No,
Obi-Wan
apparently
on
it's no. If anything, I'm reading that it's like 5 or 10 years after Revenge of the Sith.
So it's Hayden as Darth Vader.
Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen they were going to Boston Comic-Con in March. And they were charging like $2 and change an autograph. And I was like this close to jumping in the car and driving up there. Then of course, COVID happened, everything got shut down. And now we just reported last week that they are beginning filming and they are in the Boston area. So that must've been why they were there initially. So I don't know. But then we also read that a lot of the scripts went back and got rewritten because they thought that he was a little too close to what was going on with the Mandalorian, that he was going to like kind of mentor Luke.
So why are they filming in Boston? It can't be for location.
It's a weird, I don't know. Boston is a weird place to, yeah.
You know, they go to a baseball game or something.
Well, they're at Fenway Park. They're going to go to Cheers. Everybody knows their name. Vader!
That's true. That's true. We all do know their name.
Yes. So I'm interested. I don't know. I don't know if they're going to be flashbacks, if they're going to somehow be communicating with each other via Force Ghost type of, I mean, yeah, he's full on Darth Vader at this point.
Yeah. So
I don't know.
Unless he's sans helmet, but with his scuba gear on, I don't know.
That's interesting. Minus the hair.
But I was hoping that you might bring some facts about the blue butterfly.
I don't know anything about that butterfly.
So I was just reading, and again, I'm not as deep into the lore as you are, but a blue butterfly has appeared twice before in a Darth Vader comic series and also in a Ben Solo, like kid-friendly animated short.
Really?
Yeah.
And then it shows up to Grogu. So there is meaning to this. It's not just a throwaway scene. And, as we've learned, nothing in the Mandalorian. No, apparently nothing is. You got to really dig deep into dissect every one of these little things. That's interesting.
A harbinger of some kind? I don't really know.
The bigger question is, right, who did he contact?
When I watched this the second time, I froze on the blue shield. Like, well, how cool would it be if these were Force ghosts? But no, it's just cloudy, stuff.
Yeah. The overriding wish, I think, online is that obviously Luke Skywalker, coming off of Return of the Jedi, is probably looking to build up his Jedi Academy. But if you bring a Skywalker in here, it becomes a different show. And I don't want that. And even if they were going to splinter it off, like say the Acolyte is Luke Skywalker building up his academy and training Grogu. You can't remove these two characters now. You cannot take Grogu away from the Mandalorian.
No, the show would have to end if that was the case. Is one of these shows a Boba Fett show that they announced?
No, that is one that we talked about, and there was no Boba Fett movie, TV show, anything. So, which I'm fine with. But again, some of these.
So how would you feel about if Grogu steps out of the picture, if he goes to whatever planet to train with the Jedi and it becomes a buddy show with Mando and Boba Fett? How would you feel about that?
I wouldn't mind it, but you are missing something. This connection between, because Ahsoka's already established it that he has this bond with this character. But what I do feel at the end of this episode is because Grogu's gone, Razor Crest is gone, Boba Fett's in his debt. So they jump into Slave One and they go and they find Cara Dune. And as we talked about, this little medallion that was tossed to her 2 episodes ago or whatever is an indication that she is now a New Republic Marshal.
He enlists her help in order. And
so, to me, you are building a Seven Samurai / Magnificent Seven buildup. Get the crew back together. He wants to go find Mayfield, who was he a Republic sniper? Right.
I think he was an Imperial sniper.
I'm sorry, Imperial. Yes. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You're right. Yeah.
That's why they need him for his access to the codes or what have you.
Right. This was the character played by Bill Burr in season 1.
But we're getting ahead of ourselves.
Are we
right?
getting ahead of ourselves?
We're getting ahead of ourselves. Okay. Yeah. Let's wrap this one up. So he does go to Cara, and as she's unwilling to help him because, from the sounds of it, he wants to bend the law just a little bit. But as soon as she hears that the kid has been taken, she is down with it. And then we get the final scene where we
my boy's taken? What?
We see Grogu in custody. Which,
oh, yeah. Oh, that's right. And he's just throwing stormtroopers around. And Gideon is just there like he's giddy watching this unfold. Because you've never seen Grogu display any kind of mean-spirited force actions.
And this is, as we know, this is the key to the dark side, what he's doing.
He's letting him unleash, whether that builds up his midichlorian count or whatever you want to call it. But where do you get those little tiny handcuffs? What is Gideon doing on his off days that he just happens to have a pair of little tiny handcuffs floating around? Here, don't worry, I got him.
Lots of abuse towards stormtroopers in this episode.
As well, they should be. Here we go. I'm going to tell you right now, Rangers of the New Republic. So that's probably where you're going to get a Cara Dune spinoff. Obi-Wan Kenobi, which for the longest time was just called Kenobi. So now all of a sudden it's Obi-Wan. You got the Andor, Ahsoka, Mandalorian, obviously. You have this Star Wars Visions, which I'm not really sure what that is, but I'm hoping it's kind of like what they're doing with the Marvel stuff, with the What If.
Yeah, so we're assuming that maybe one or more of these are animated.
I would love for that. Bad Batch, Lando is getting his own show, so I'm assuming that's going to be what's his name from Solo?
Donald Glover.
A droid story, which I'm not entirely sure what that is. And then you have Rogue Squadron, which is the only movie that they have in development right now.
I wonder what the fate of that movie will be. Will it be Disney Plus? Will it be theatrical?
The one cool thing is that there's a little teaser trailer, but it really is just Patty Jenkins talking about the fact that, she was an Air Force brat growing up. Her dad was in the military, and she was obsessed with the fighter pilots. And she always wanted to kind of make a movie. And she goes, and I finally found the 2 things I love the best, to meld them together. And she puts on the X-Wing flight suit, and then she puts on the helmet, and she turns around and she walks towards a full-size X-Wing fighter.
Aww.
And it just goosebumps, because we know what she's done with Wonder Woman. So I'm intrigued. I am absolutely over the moon to see what she's going to do with that.
I wonder if Disney considers this poaching from Warner Brothers.
I don't know. They don't sign these contracts. These guys come and go. Just look at James Gunn.
Yes, it's okay. James Gunn, you can go direct Suicide Squad. We're going to take Patty Jenkins.
You got to come back though and go Guardians 3. So,
and this Guardians holiday special
did you right. That's right. They go to Kashyyyk to celebrate Life Day.
So Baby Yoda ends in custody with Moff Gideon, who is, as you said, giddy.
He is giddy. Giggity.
And then he's like mocking him with the Darksaber. Oh, you've seen this before. Oh, right. This is not for you to play with. You'll put your eye out.
Moff Gideon, you're a jerk.
He is.
Whatever. So it looks like I feel that they're kind of building up to this Magnificent Seven kind of standoff with him, but maybe chapter 15 will tell me differently.
Maybe it will. Thank you for listening.
Yes, this is the way.
Hello, everybody. If you liked the podcast you just heard, then please follow TMI on all of our social media outlets. First and foremost, email us at tmipodcast2018@gmail.com. That is tmipodcast2018@gmail.com.
And you can follow us on Twitter at TMI_podcast2018. Stop over, say hi, give us a compliment. We'd love to hear from you.
Awesome. Make sure you follow us on Instagram as well, which is also TMI_podcast2018.
And of course, we are on Facebook, facebook.com/TMI Podcast 2018. And it should be noted, we also have a community page, so join the forum.
And if you like to watch YouTube, you can see us at TMI Podcast 2018, all one word. Look for the popcorn bucket.
Popcorn bucket. Or you could just go to our website, which has every link there, TMIConfessionalspodcast.com. And we'll see you at the concession stand.
We'll save some popcorn for you.
Jar Jar Binks, everybody. Jar Jar Binks.
They're gonna blow them up.